So yesterday night, the Forbidden List for Master Duel came out, and I just wanted to share with you my thoughts and my opinions on the things that have been happening and the impact that this will have on the Master Duel game. As you guys already know, of course, I'm TheCaliEffect, Master Duel Cali, as you will. And if you want to see more content, then of course go ahead and subscribe to this channel or check out my TCG channel, TheCaliEffect King of Games, and also follow me on Twitch, TheCaliEffect. I stream Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So there's going to be a crazy things that are going to happen into this Forbidden List, and let's go ahead and talk about them. The first thing are going to be Cyberstein, Smoke Grenade, and the Thief, and Terraforming are going to be forbidden. Personally, I think that Cyberstein, which was just banned in the TCG, is a problematic Yu-Gi-Oh card, regardless if it isn't being played as much. It is seeing a little bit of play inside of Master Duel, but I think the biggest problem with Cyberstein isn't necessarily being able to summon cards like Notarial Exterior to your side of the field, but being able to abuse Cyberstein to summon just really busted fusions, which overall could create an unstable game state. Also, Cyberstein is a level 2 monster that can be special summoned with Sprite Elf, and as you know, the Master Duel scene has taken a little bit of a difference to how they hit cards from the TCG and OCG. The banning of Cyberstein is pretty good, especially when you have Sprite Elf still off the Forbidden List. Smoke Grenade of the Thief is just a card that should never exist. This card has fueled so many hand loops, but it makes me think that we may be getting some support very soon that would have made Smoke Grenade of the Thief extremely broken. Fortunately enough, we have it banned in the TCG. I believe it's also banned, or some sort of capacity of the loop is hit inside of the OCG as well. But it's really, really good to see a card like Smoke Grenade of the Thief banned. It is not a very fun card to play against. Lastly is Terraforming, which this one is another confusing hit that Konami has done over the course of time. They limited the Foolish Burial Goods, and you would think that it was because of Tearlament. Terraforming being banned does a lot of harm to a lot of current Yu-Gi-Oh decks that could use the abilities of Terraforming to make their deck a little bit more consistent. Now, granted, some of those decks really aren't necessarily playable in the first place. And when I mean playable, I mean the highest level of competition type playable. But Terraforming banned is definitely an interesting approach. And I think it has little to do with Tearlament and more to do with there are going to be more Field Spell-like decks that are going to be really, really powerful. And the banning of Terraforming limits their consistency. So I'm not really an agreement of the Terraforming ban, but I guess it depends on if we're going to be getting Kashtira very soon, or if Vanadium's going to be coming anytime soon, and certain strategies that would make Terraforming really, really good. Let's go ahead and look at some of the other cards they have banned here or limited. We have a Keldo, Madura, and Ajido. These, I think, are actually going to be key hits. I think that these are, they're good hits, especially if you refuse to hit the Tearlament cards, which should be hit at some point in time. At least put to a point where they're still playable. I'm all in favor for making decks as playable as possible, but I think there should be a curb to the power of particular decks. For example, Tearlament has been taking up most of the top spots for the past 2 months. That is a little problematic, and I think that has turned a lot of players off from playing Yu-Gi-Oh in the competitive ladder for Master Duel. Keldo, Madura, and Ajido all being limited are steps in the right direction, but my problem with Keldo, Madura, and Ajido all being limited is that there are cards to be able to produce these cards still at the same pace. When Tearlament first came out, I actually made a build of Tearlament and showed it to you guys that can summon Baron de Flor as well as a Rue Kalos under a Sprite Elf, preventing them from being targeted, which is really, really powerful. And to be honest, I think that that would probably be the strongest version of Tearlament, because on the way to making your Baron de Flor, you can send cards like Ajido and Keldo and Madura and Kelbic to your graveyard to be able to trigger that extra mill 5. And the only thing it does is require your normal summon, something that can be circumvented because Rhino Heart can be special summoned. So I don't think that this is 100% the correct way to go. But I also understand that Konami is going to be, or I have a thought process that Konami may be introducing the Bystials very soon, which could help. Now, in the TCG, the Bystial monsters did not change tier limit from being tier 0, which You know, because Tearlament plays the Bestial monsters, and it prevented other decks that were light and dark dependent from being very competitive. The Bestials is a slight nerf to the Sprite strategy because Elf targeting any light or dark monster gets Bestialed, and it's a bigger body so that they have to deal with. It's a nerf to Mathmech because Bestial any of the Mathmech cards in the graveyard, huge body that they have to deal with, and it stops their combo. It's a nerf to so many decks, and Tearlament can play with the deck or play with the cards so effortlessly because even if they aren't going against the mirror match per se or a light or dark strategy per se, they can always just banish their own light and dark monsters to be able to get big bodies to their side of the field and just float into the game. So not really happy that the Shizu cards are the only thing being limited here, but I do think that Diviner Herald will be a must play in Tearlament because normal summon Diviner Herald, send Keldo, Ajido, Madura, or Kelbeck to the graveyard is a free mill 5 or a free disruption on Lexern. And then of course the Ishizu Shuffler cards, they stop the Bestials themselves. So I'm not really a big fan of that. Moving forward, cards to be semi-limited: Sprite Blue, Girsu, Orcus Mekk-Knight, Nadir Servant, Metaverse, and Cyber Angel Benton. Let's go ahead and talk about these cards one by one. Sprite Blue being semi-limited is an interesting take. The reason why I say that is because Sprite, they're not a bad Yu-Gi-Oh deck, but I don't think that Sprite will be more powerful with the Bestial monsters coming out. One of the biggest problems for Sprite is that if you summon a big enough monster to your side of the field, they have to deal with that. And since the Sprites are weak at the beginning points, and a lot of times throughout playing points, they will struggle against multiple big monsters. And that's exactly what the Bestial monsters do, as well as take away important Sprite monsters like Sprite Blue and Sprite Jet to be able to special summon from the graveyard. So the semi-limited of Sprite Blue does hurt Sprite, of course, but I don't see what was the purpose of that. Girsu the Orcus Mekk-Knight to 2. I don't think this does anything. I genuinely think that Girsu the Mekk-Knight Orcus can go to 3. There's a huge boost for the Orcus deck. But the problem with Orcus is that Orcus is a little bit behind when it comes to competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! On top of that, we're getting the Bestial monsters, which the Bestial monsters are Orcus' worst nightmare. Like, imagine losing your monsters and then summoning a Bestial, and then having to deal with a big body Bestial as well. They could work with the Bestial monsters as well because the Bestials are monsters that you can summon and combine them with Orcus. But if everybody's playing Bestials, you have to understand you're at a disadvantage too. Nadir Servant to be semi-limited. There's a card that I think can come to 3. Nadir Servant is not a fearsome Yu-Gi-Oh card. Like when Master Duel first came out, understandable when the Invoke strategy was one of the best strategies in the game. Ooh, excuse me. But right now, I think that Nadir Servant can come to 3, but more importantly, that almost confirms my suspicion that the Dogmatica cards are going to be released. More Dogmatica cards for us. Metaverse coming to 2. Metaverse to 2 is like, yo, can I have terraforming? Yo, you got terraforming at home, and they give you Metaverse. That's pretty much Metaverse. Slow card. The reason why Metaverse was limited at any point in time was because players were activating Mystic Mind, something that Master Duel players have no idea what it is because it never touched Master Duel for great reason. So, I mean, Metaverse can definitely come to 3. And then lastly, Cyber Angel Benton. I think that this will be, you know what? I'm not even 100% sure if Benton was at 1 or was it at 3. I probably have to consult my boy Tamias about this, but I don't think that this changes much for the Drytron strategy, mainly because the Bestial monsters are coming out, and the Bestials pretty much really hurt Drytron very well. Keep in mind, even if you're activating the effect of a Drytron monster in hand, tributing Cyber Angel Benton, how it works is, especially in the TCG, correct me if I'm wrong, Master Duel players, because sometimes the Master Duel system goes by the OCG. If you activate a Bestial monster to banish the Cyber Angel Benton from the graveyard before the Drytron monster can summon, then they won't be able to activate their Drytron monsters. I might have to test that just in case, but that's how it works in the TCG, which is really, really problematic. But even if it weren't, Drytron monsters trying to summon themselves from the graveyard will just get Bestialed, and you lose a card from your hand in the process, which is really, really bad. So cards to be unlimited. There's no cards to be unlimited. So I mean, overall, I think that this ban list is mediocre. I think that it's mediocre. because it's really dependent on the new cards that get released. This will be the second month in a row where we get cards that aren't game changing. And when I mean that, I mean tier limit has been way too oppressive. Decks like Goaty, Naturia, the Fur Hire and stuff like that. Really cool strategies that actually came out with the new support have been pretty much overlooked because like the tier limit strategy is too powerful. So it's really going to depend on what Konami brings out. And time after time again, as a TCG player and a Master Duel player, Konami has disappointed me by bringing out cards that they think would change the Yu-Gi-Oh card game and have not. So it's basically like Konami saying, trust me, when we know that time after time they failed. But I mean, the only thing we can do is hold out hope that they actually change the game.